Hello and welcome back to the channel of biking nonsense with what I think is just one of the most important bikes of the past 5 years. It is the new Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS, and this is important for several reasons, because the Speed Triple has been around for 30 years now, but this for me is the first time it's got the engine it's deserved. It's an all-new 1160cc triple with 180 horsepower. It's a big boy, 125 newton-meters of torque, and well, let's go for a ride and find out if the rest of the bike matches up to that new engine. Quick warning, this isn't going to be a super sexy video. I have got my gimbal, but I haven't got time to use it because it's 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm working in the evening. The kids are in bed, and I like to think this is how Speed Triple owners might use their bikes, getting out for a summer evening blast. The rain is slowly drying off the ground. Let's go and find some dry roads and let rip on this new Hinkley Bruiser.
Right, I am actually going to do a bit of a walk around because I found somewhere pretty to do it. I haven't got my gimbal, so apologies if it's a bit shaky. I'm going to talk about most of the technical bits while we're out riding, but basically this is the overall look of the bike. It's got that alien-y, insecty look that Triumph is going for lately, with these really sharp headlights, which are a bit snoutier than before. There is an accessory screen to go on there if you want. Carbon fibre front mudguard, a standard little Triumph logo on it. Brembo Stylema front calipers. The new 1160cc triple. There you go. This new frame, which again looks familiar but is a lot lighter, cast aluminium stuff. New exhaust, Euro 5. It's the Erlin shock back there, manually adjustable, as are the forks. No fancy electronic stuff here, and that's part of the reason this is £15,100, not like 18, 19, 20 grand. These cool bar end mirrors are standard and they're super unvibey. In the video I'll probably talk about a little plug thing on the seat, and that just covers the bolt there to pop the pillion seat on and off, and that just comes undone all the time on this one. These are the super sticky Metzler Racetech RR tyres, which are brilliant, to be honest. I've been riding in the wet today and they've been alright, but in the dry they are phenoms, mate, as they say. Quite like the fact that this is metal. Look at that. It's not just a cheap bit of plastic that you unbolt and throw away at your earliest convenience, although I guess you can unbolt it quite easily for track days and stuff like that. The seat is pretty comfy, and that's pretty much all there is to it. I quite like the fact that the tank really rises up, and it's actually the highest part of the bike. It's higher than the clocks. That's the new 5-inch screen, which I'll talk about while we're riding along as well. And it's keyless, including a keyless fuel flap, which is nice. Adjustable Brembo master cylinder, cable clutch. Nice little Triumph logo on there though. So there we go. Right, anyway, I didn't say I was going to do a walk around. I've done one. Back to riding it.
I've had this for a week, but actually I've only ridden it twice because, well, I've had whiplash and the weather has been terrible. But initial impressions are this just feels like a more modern bike than the outgoing model. The outgoing model was no slouch, don't get me wrong. I really like the chassis on it, but that 1050mm, it's long in the tooth. I had a 2011 Speed Triple and it felt slightly heavy and laboured then. This has got, well, a shorter stroke, a bigger bore. It's revvier. They've lightened pretty much everything they can to reduce internal inertia of the engine by 16%, which means it spins up a lot more quickly, and it does feel brand new and cutting edge. Two words that you could never really apply to a Speed Triple before. So yeah, very excited to show you the new motor. It is a gem. Now let's just rewind a bit, because this bike's been around for a couple of months now, and there's been a lot of talk in the press about it being ultra stiff. It isn't at all. And I think what's happened is when it launched there was a track test and all kind of stuff like that, so the bikes were presumably set up for the track. I think Triumph has since started giving them out with a slightly softer setting. I haven't fiddled with the suspension, but I've chatted to a few people and they said they've actually been wound off a bit. I presume this one has as well, and it is, you know what, it is stiff-ish, but no more than a Super Duke, and it is perfectly compliant. And that Erlin suspension front and rear just oozes kind of luxuriant damping over bumps and things. It might be firm, but you're not having a jarry, crashy ride. So let's get that out of the way. I think we have got that out of the way. That is bollocks, basically. It is absolutely fine. Let's get onto some faster roads. Woo-hoo! Traction control kicking in a little bit there. So the roads are still a bit cold and damp, so I might take it a little bit easy, but I'll try and give it as much of a razz as I dare. We're going to go to some dual carriageways in a minute. I'll talk very briefly about life on a naked bike at 70 miles an hour, which probably won't come as much of a surprise to anyone. But yeah, I am like absolutely drenched. I came out to film this earlier and the heavens opened and I got so wet that my nipples grew life rafts. It just was horrible, so I came home. So I'm riding in a damp jacket and trousers with that lovely cold wind chill. Anyway, enough about various parts of my body that you don't need to think about, and I'll see you in a second. Right, let's get up to 70 miles an hour and see how it feels. I am in sport mode of the riding mode. You've got rain, you've got user, you've got normal street. It is a little bit damp still, so let's go. Yeah, so in second gear the acceleration is very smooth. I would say it's bloody fast, and you are surprised by the numbers that it's doing on the speedo. It's not necessarily aggressive until you realise how much it wants to wheelie, and the traction control, stability control is working all the time just to keep the front wheel close to the floor. And I find even in sport mode the anti-wheelie is quite intrusive, not in an aggressive way. It just doesn't really let you do many power wheelies, just little ones. So you have to go to track mode, and we'll get on to that later to do that. But anyway, practical, relevant stuff. The mirrors are super smooth. They're called bar end ones as standard, and it is nice to see Triumph giving you actually quite attractive mirrors out of the crate. I haven't mentioned the price. This is a £15,100 bike, which puts it £3,000 less than the brilliant Tuono V4. Yeah, about 3,000 less than a Ducati Street Fighter V4, the one with normal suspension that no one buys, 5 grand less than the V4S, and about a grand less than a Super Duke by the time you've added a quick shifter and bits, which this bike has as standard. So this is kind of Billy Bargain. Obviously there's the BMW S1000 Single R, which is new this year. I'm riding that in a couple of weeks, so I can't pass comment on that yet. But yeah, I don't have heated grips, I do have cruise control, and it's dead easy to use. I just hit this button twice, and there we go. Cruise control is on. The wind blast on my chest is what you would imagine a wind blast on your chest to be. But because the riding position, I say this all the time, is quite leant forward, it's manageable. And I think the riding position is more aggressive than any speed triple that I've ridden before, and I quite like that. It makes riding it, it puts you in a certain frame of mind and shows you the bike's sporting intent. The brakes are Brembo Stylemas, and they are phenomenal, the amount of power they have. And they are actually linked. Oh, I've got cold tyres, and this is a cold bit of road. They are linked, but you don't really notice it. It's not like you're riding an old Honda Blackbird and you use the rear brake in the corner and it sits you up because it's put the front brake on. None of that. They are just stonkingly powerful, which you need on this bike, as we've already said, is very fast. We'll get onto that. It's just, for me, I'll talk about this in a bit once I've done some riding as well, but for me this is the speed triple it's always wanted to be. It hasn't got that boat anchor of a heavy engine. The engine on this weighs, I can't remember how many kilos, but it's a lot of kilos less than the old 1050. It's got a new cast aluminium frame, which saves a bit of weight as well. And all in, I think this whole bike's at least 10 kilos lighter than the old one. Power to weight, as a result, has gone up 26%. So yeah, that's what happens when you put a stonking new engine in with 30 horsepower more than the old one, and a lighter frame. So yeah, basically Triumph saying, hello, can we join your super naked party? And we've got our little Union Jack bowler hats on, which are made in Thailand, got a little label on the inside. So yeah, let's get to the twisty road so I can stop chatting shit at you. Right, we're about to get to national speed limit, twisty, bumpy country road that I use for testing cars and bikes. I've gone to a user mode so I can put the traction control in track mode, because I just want to see. There we go. There we go. So if you want it to do little power wheelies, stick it in traction control mode. I would say the turn-in is quite impressive on this. It's not super light, so from memory I think the Super Duke turns in a little bit more quickly than this. The Tuono is a lot slower than this. But yeah, it just fills you with confidence from the moment you get on it and start riding it quickly. Part of that is down to the Metzeler Racetech RR tyres, which are stickier than an octopus in a glue factory. And yeah, it's just a bit of a weapon now. It feels all of a piece. The engine is spinning up faster than ever, spinning harder, and the chassis never really had much wrong with it, to be honest, but it still feels more like a street triple now than a speed triple. Just the way it feels between your knees and the way it turns in, yet it hasn't got the flightiness of the street triple, which always buggered me about a bit. I always preferred the extra mass of the speed triple for confidence in corners, and this has it in spades. And I'm starting to think, the more I ride this, the more I think it might have one of the best super naked chassis out there. And I know everyone jizzes over your Aprilia, but I wasn't too bothered by it on the road, which is a shame because I wanted to like it. And let's talk a bit about the engine. You can short shift absolutely everywhere in this. It revs 250 RPM higher than before, so it's about 11,500 RPM before the limiter cuts in. But it gets there a lot more quickly than the old bike. But as I said, it's got so much mid-range shove that you can just go through the quick shifter. Really smooth gearbox as well. Down blip is really crisp. I have got caught between second and first going down a few times where it pops into neutral, but I just need to kick it harder, I imagine. So there's not really any glaring flaws with this bike dynamically. The brakes are strong, the chassis full of feel, and I would love to take this on a track day. It's that kind of bike, but it's still compliant on the road. Now obviously it's manual suspension, that's why it's not £18,000 I imagine, but you know, I think this is an absolutely perfect setup for the road at the moment, and you can obviously stiffen it up more if you go on track. The electronics, this is where the rider modes have caught me out a bit. Even in the sportiest rider mode, you don't get much front wheel lift, and I just think Triumph, I know they're not trying to be safe and there's global concern, but I'd like to see them have, I don't know, a bit more fire in their belly to let their bikes move around a bit more in the sportier settings. Get on a Super Duke, even with the anti-wheelie on, that will do little wheelies. It will control them, it will make you feel like a god. This, you have to get the big scary traction control off sign before it will do any of that. Like, I'm not a big wheelie monster, I can't do proper wheelies, but I want the front wheel to lift a bit under power to make me feel like I'm getting my 180 horsepower's worth. And you just have to faff about, because if you do go into rider mode with traction control, you have to turn the traction control fully off first before you get into that setting. I don't think it is fully off. It's just slackened off, but it gives you the big scary "you're going to die" symbol on the dashboard. So yeah, it's just a bit of a faff to get into that mode. The menus otherwise are really clearly laid out. I can't really show you because I'm riding along, but they're modern, they are different to other Triumphs. This is a new 5-inch TFT screen, and the screen's actually bonded to the glass for less reflection. And I have to say, it kind of works. I can barely see any reflection of the yoke or anything in that screen. So bravo Triumph, you have improved on the TFT screen. I do just love the creamy punch out of corners. I've tried not to say creamy because it's a disgusting word. It's like saying, oh Miriam, I'm a bit moist today. But yeah, and it's also a massive cliche. Oh, hello. Sorry, slightly disjointed thought while we're talking about the engine. It excites me about what Triumph can do with this engine now that they've got it, and they've clearly spent hundreds of thousands of pounds creating it. They could stick this in an adventure bike, detune it to the standard 160 horsepower, and then we'd have a Triumph Tiger that can take on the likes of the Multistrada V4 and the KTM Super Adventure. That'd be quite interesting. I presume they're going to do that. I haven't heard anything, but it makes sense that once you've got your sunk costs into an engine, then you can, I don't know what the business term is, spunk it everywhere in different bikes of different types. Ooh, that's exciting, isn't it? That'd be nice, a Tiger with teeth. Oh, it's just nice to be on a screaming big triple, because I always feel like Triumph really nailed it with the 765 triple engine, that Moto 2 technology and all that kind of stuff. The 1050 was always too slow revving for me. This is an absolute peach. It sounds fantastic as well. It's got that kind of triple roar. It's not loud because obviously it's Euro 5, and Triumph will not make an aftermarket accessory exhaust. because they say that they can't make it any louder because of regulations, so they put all their efforts into making the stock exhaust as light as possible. It's a bit damp. So gone are the days, sadly, of buying an Arrow 3-into-1 lowboy system and slap it on your Speed Triple like I did when I bought mine back in 2011. That bike used to spit flames on the Overon riding it home from the dealer brand new. We didn't know how good we had it, did we? But yeah, won't be getting any of that with this. But the engine airbox noise, it's all decent enough, you know what you're riding. Very briefly going to talk about how it rides at slower speeds. It's a triple. It is really perfectly smooth, and in first gear you let the clutch out and it will trundle along at like 10-11 miles an hour before you have to slip the clutch, so it's reasonably tractable. I hate using that word. It's fine, doesn't get hot either, riding position's not too bad, and the seat has been comfortable for my petite little bum. It's not very petite. In conclusion, this, I think, is the Speed Triple Triumph has always wanted to build, but for various reasons hasn't done it. And it all really does centre around that new engine. It just feels peppier and more alive and more, so it's got more of a will to be thrashed than any of the big Speed Triple engines. It feels racier, sure, but I think it's still a brilliant road engine. Bags of mid-range shove and bags of low-down stonk as well. And you can get lazy with your gears, but when you want to get on it and you want to thrash it, now it responds. Now it rips to the red line with loads more vigour and purpose, does little wheelies, or do big wheelies as well. I'm reliably informed by people that can actually do them. And it is a hoot. The chassis as well, I think it's perfect for the road. I don't think it's too firm, and as I said, I just think that was a mistake from the original press launch. But yeah. I'm sorry, professional face. Yeah, so as a package, I think, I'm gonna say it, this is now in my top 3 Super Nakeds, possibly underneath the Super Duke because that's a bit more mental, but this would probably, almost certainly, definitely actually be faster around the track. But don't get confused and don't think that this is just a track bike, because it's not. It's the same wicked road bike a Speed Triple always has been, just with everything turned up in every single area, and it feels fully modern. I love it. Well done, Triumph. Anyway, thank you for watching. Sorry it's a bit of a shorter video than usual because it's been raining and I've got excuses coming out my ears, mostly called 2 young children. So I didn't get my gimbal out to do the sexy B-roll stuff, but who cares? The bike speaks for itself, frankly. It's good. Go buy one, 15 grand, local Triumph dealer. You've probably got to wait until quite a bit later this year because everyone wants one, for good reason. Bravo! Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, do please consider subscribing to my channel. I do weekly videos on new motorbikes and some older ones and some weird ones and adventures that I have during my life as a motoring journalist. And I have a car channel as well called Tim Roadie Drive Stuff. That is my day job, and I run a website called Drive Tribe, owned by Clarkson Hamden May. That is my day job really, but go and check it all out. And thank you for watching. You didn't have to watch this, but you did. And if you've bought one of these, tell me in the comments how you're getting on with it. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.